Hi, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 9 of D2Football.com's NSIC Weekly Podcast. I'm Tom Frederick, announcer for the University of Sioux Falls. I am flanked by my partner in pod. You know him, you love him, you can't get enough of him. The man in the hat in maroon, Matt Witwicky, Northern Sun Conference columnist for Mr. Meisner's Pride and Joy. What is up with that noggin covering there?
You know what? I kind of like it. It matches our Harrisburg colors, and it even matches what we have with our guest here. So, you know, but I don't know about yourself, buddy, but I've been kind of getting over a bad cold. It might even be a second bout with COVID for all I know. But how have things been with you, buddy?
For all you know, you didn't test?
Yeah, you know what? We're kind of at that point where I've already had it and gone through everything. So even if I did get it again, it wasn't going to be such a big thing, you know?
All right. Well, I'm doing just fine. You've been surveilling me. You knew that I have been bike riding, mowing my lawn, catching all the leaves. I don't need you peeking in my windows at night, though. All right. Let's lay off.
I'm sorry. That was somebody accidentally hit that. That was a live look of you off the bike riding piece. But
Yeah.
sorry about that. Yeah, and you know what? Speaking of you, doing things, with your lawn and all that kind of thing, I do need to ask just for a moment,
Uh-oh.
Okay, so apparently we feel the need to take our daily chores, like doing the lawn, and take pictures and let everybody know on Facebook or on Twitter about this. Care to explain yourself?
It looks nice, doesn't it?
Yes.
It doesn't look that way today. The wind has up and knocked a lot of the leaves down. It's like it's snowing around here, but come on, cut me a break.
Fair enough. Anyway, so what else is going on this week, my friend?
Nothing. We got to get the ball rolling. We're on it.
Let's get the ball rolling.
Here, buddy. The NSIC, as usual, has cited 3 players for their exploits on the gridiron last week, October the 14th. And I got to witness firsthand 2 of these honorees. Offensively, Moorhead wide receiver Ryan Bieberdorf, who has had a down year because of injury, bad shoulder and all. He's a senior from Bemidji. He hauled in 6 passes, 137 yards, and 4 touchdowns in MSUM's 53-40 win over Sioux Falls. That mark tied the school record for touchdown catches in a game. Bieberdorf averaged about 23 yards a grab. He made some big-time catches, and I know because I was there in person. I witnessed him. Jack Strand dropped him in there like a dime, and he brought him in on the sideline. Beautifully done.
Yeah, I mean, he was just obviously the recipient of frankly the most production, but they were going up and making plays on 50-50 balls, and you really get a chance to see in a game like that, Tom, when you're up close watching them on how they're so successful throwing the ball. I mean, their receivers go fight for the football, and they really did, especially in that second half against Sioux Falls.
Yeah, not just Ryan Bieberdorf, but Gage Florence had a nice game as well. Beat you in fantasy. Bieberdorf's teammate, Hamilton, Wisconsin junior linebacker Josiah Boehm. He had 8 tackles, including 5 solos in that Dragons win. He flipped the complexion of the game late stages, first quarter. He returned an interception nearly 100 yards for a touchdown. Instead of USF going up 2 scores, Boehm brought the Dragons to life. The return tied an MSUM record for longest interception return in school history, 98 yards officially. The second citation of the fall for Mr. Boehm, who was like, on Saturday, he was like savoir-faire. He was everywhere defensively, sideline to sideline.
Yeah, and he's moving up also, Tom, as one of the top tacklers in the conference, not to mention the play he had there really flipped that football game. They were getting ready to be, put in a real bad spot down 14-0, and it ended up being like that kind of play. So pretty big performance.
Special teams, the guy on the right, the headshot there, Jake Pacina. He's a Texan. He's a freshman from Forney, Texas. He was 2 for 2 on field goals for Augustana, 6 for 6 on PATs. His field goals, one of them was a career-long 48 yards as the Vikings went into Winona and walked away with a 48-28 win.
Yeah, he looks like he's 12 in this photo, but moving past that, I watched that game and saw him. That 48-yarder was an absolute nuke. He had about 10 yards extra on that thing. That thing would have been good from 58. So I was blown away that he made that with such ease. I'm not normally a guy talking about the kicking game. I was pretty impressed by that.
Yeah, usually you troll the special teamers. You're not lauding their
Careful.
All right. Let's revisit week 7, shall we? Mankato, sure. Augustana, still the league's lone unbeatens, each of them sitting at 7-0 at this point. Mankato coming off a non-conference win against Western Oregon. We'll delve into that in just a little bit. The NSIC is now 6-2 in non-conference games. In your opinion, and I value your opinion because you follow D2 football across the land like nobody else. What does that 6-2 record say about the NSIC's strength in comparison to other conferences?
Well, some of it's what games you have scheduled, if we're going to be really honest. It's if we're playing the top end of every conference, it might be a little bit different. But, the fact that there's been plenty of middle against middle games, I think it does speak well for the conference, without a doubt. I think we'll find out a little bit more once, the playoffs begin, because a lot of times best on best is really where some of that's determined.
As of this week, it appears that the Northern Sun has 5 teams, and that may be pushing it, 5 teams battling for a playoff spot, with 3 loss, Moorhead definitely needing some assistance. Now, Witt's a renowned gambler. Who do you have from the NSIC making the postseason this year?
I have a feeling there's going to be a total of 3 teams from the Northern Sun, 2 from the Lone Star and 2 from the RMAC, Texas and Colorado, respectively. I still say, until I get proven wrong, that Mankato and probably Bemidji are the class of the conference. Then I think you've got Augustana. I think you got Wayne State and Duluth battling for what might be that 3rd spot. Certainly, there's a chance that they could get 4 if the Lone Star maybe only gets 1. But trend seems to suggest kind of where I'm going with that. Moorhead is still in the race officially, but I don't know if I see a 3-loss team making the dance this year.
I don't see it, and I don't follow it as closely as you do. You'd have the inside dope there, but I just don't see it happen.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of looking at this and seeing those 3 squads. They're the ones I'm focusing in on. But, these next few weeks are going to tell that whole story.
All right. There have been a few surprises this year in the league, to me anyway. Your thoughts on surprising activity in the Northern Sun?
Yeah, I've got some in mind. You tell me yours first, and I'll go from there.
Well, I had a conversation today with one of our loyal and faithful podcast followers on this very topic. To me, MSU Moorhead probably is the most improved team. Sure, the defense gave up a lot of points and yards the other day, but I was impressed with the way they rallied to the ball. Bame and the defensive line and the rest of the linebackers, that's a strong unit. So that's very a much improved Dragons team defensively.
Yeah.
The 2 that are not performing to the level that I thought or anticipated preseason, Northern State and USF. Both are sitting 3-4, and I did not have 3-4 on my worksheet as I went through all 11 games for each team. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with either one of those 2 or anything you just mentioned there. I would add Winona to the mix in terms of a little disappointing. They were a playoff squad a year ago. I did figure that UMD would be kind of strong, and I know you weren't exactly high on them.
I was not.
Augie is 7-0 and throwing it in your face from our preseason thing. But, they've really taken care of business, and I think they're now going to get challenged from here going forward.
Well, there's no doubt about that. The first half of their schedule pretty soft. The back half much tougher, but you can't argue with 7 wins in 7 outings. The NSIC has those 3 teams ranked in D2Football.com's top 25. Mankato's been there all season. Bemidji's been in the top 25. And Augie got accolades last week for the first time. Mankato's 4, Bemidji 9, and Augustana University is 21, according to the friends at d2football.com. We don't care about that AFCA poll. There's a new number 1 in Division 2 as the 2-time defending champion Ferris State of Michigan lost at Grand Valley State over the weekend. They came back from 28-0 to make it interesting, but they lost nonetheless, their second of the year. Colorado Mines is now up to number 1. That's a first in school history. The Orediggers had a 3-score win at home against South Dakota Mines on Saturday. The team that's now number 2 in the nation, the Pittsburgh State Gorillas, will be at the Jungle. That's USF, Tim Hyatt, myself, the team, you name it. Week 9, that's about 10 days away now. As we approach Halloween, am I going to be scared out of my drawers when we go to Pittsburgh State because of the Gorilla team?
Well, they've been very good. They've been a slow starter in a lot of their football games, but their defense is just very fast to the football. And, they're unbeaten, and they're playing for maybe the top seed in Super Region 3. So they're going to have a whole lot on the line there.
Let's open up this week, the rehash now, with a breakdown of Northern State at Southwest Minnesota State. That game was won by the Wolves, 24-17. Waiting for our producer to catch up, get the screen.
Yes. It's taken a moment for me here, buddy, but let's go. We got it. And let's talk a little bit about the Wolves.
Yeah, we've had some internet issues tonight, so bear with us. Northern trailed 14-3 early, was down 17-10 at the half before corralling the Ponies and limiting them to 27 yards in that second half as they outscored them 14-0 to post the win.
Yeah, and I was kind of impressed by the fact that Northern, made a comeback with 2 long passes, 51 yards to Dakota Larson, 63 to Dwaylen Ingram. And I really think that they do have a fighting chance with Hackle at quarterback. And they've had so much instability kind of across the board with things. And if they can get things a little bit settled, I think that could help them out quite a bit.
Witt alluded to it a bit ago, but we've got another victim in the Budweiser hot seat here on NSIC Weekly. Joining us, the new voice of Northern State University, David Tukesbrey. How are things going, Dave, in your transition from covering the now closed Presentation College to manning the mic for Northern State University?
First off, 2 things. You pronounced Tukesbrey correct, so thumbs up there. And you also said presentation. So you're 2 for 2. No, it's been great. It's been a bit of an adjustment for sure, going from NAIA to D2, but it's been an absolute blast. It's just an incredible blessing for sure.
You guys obviously had a game in Marshall this last weekend. Tell us a little bit about your impressions of the game itself and the Wolves' performance.
Well, like you said, they get down 14-3, and it's homecoming there for SMSU. Crowds going absolutely bananas. Crowds packed. They're very, very big on the suites there for the stadium. For those of you that have never been there before, it's a really, really cool place to broadcast a game. Kinda. It's unique. It's definitely a unique scenario where you're broadcasting a game there at the goal line. So if you're looking at the picture there, you're all the way to the left-hand side there. And there's the picture that I took. And definitely a unique perspective for sure. Not my favorite in the world, but you know what? That's the way it goes. And I did my best. Thank God I had my binoculars with me. But I tell you, the crowd was going crazy. They're down 14-3. And I tell you what, I thought Marcus Martin put a ball right on the money over the middle to Eric Lira. And Lira dropped a touchdown pass. Now, I think it was 1 or 2 plays later after that, Corey Scott comes up with an interception. And as soon as Scott had the pick, it just felt like all the momentum in that stadium was on that northern sideline. And then that Colton comes in, hooks up and extends the play. This is one thing I really love about Colton Hackle's style is he's so mobile, he's so athletic, and he's thick. He's a player that's not afraid to tuck it and run, which at times has actually got him into some problems with injuries and what have you. But he's really just a stud of an athlete. Great throw to Dakota Larson, hooks up with the 51-yard touchdown pass there. And we always have our keys to the game brought to you by the Aberdeen Chrysler Center. A little shout out to those folks. And my third key to the game, guys, was if Northern can win the third quarter, they're going to win the football game. If Northern can get an interception, they're going to win the football game because they hadn't had a pick since week 3 against Hugh Mary. And in the third quarter, they outscore SMSU 14-0. And going into that game, SMSU had been outscored 34-7 in that third quarter. So that's something I identified and said, hey, jump on them in the third quarter. If you can do so, I really like your chances. And it was just like lightning struck twice in that third quarter, and they could just do no wrong. And defensively, they were so locked in. And there's been so many times this year where they have gotten down, and on the sidelines, things kind of fracture a little bit. Head coach Mike Schmidt talked about in the post-game show, and he said it was just nice to have kind of a calming presence on the sideline a little bit more this time against SMSU. And offensively, they clicked. You mentioned the defensive numbers. Ian Marshall was living in the backfield there a little bit. Ishmael Conte had a big sack on a third down. Jake Adams was making plays. So it was just a huge, huge victory, kind of a weight off the shoulders of that sideline that, hey, we can win on the road, and when things don't go well, we can still stay together rather than fracture apart.
Whit, you didn't tell this guy we have an exclusive sponsor, and here he is throwing in the Aberdeen Chrysler Center on the podcast. I cannot believe this. Holy
Oops.
Well,
Sorry,
Dave,
guys.
You reached out before you went to Marshall about what you might encounter at Matkey Field. You asked if there was anything special you needed to know. I said, well, and the game's right in front of you. You're going to love it. But in what's to the south, or I beg your pardon, to your left, to the north, it's going to be a brutal call. You're lucky you did it during daylight. I guess you started late in the day, and did it get a little bit tougher for you to see as the game wore on?
Not really, because I did have my binoculars with me, and I would say probably around dusk is when the game actually ended. So there were multiple plays where I was like, so-and-so off left guard, brought down by so-and-so, gain of 4, ... question mark. I think it might have been a gain of 6, could have been a gain of 7, actually might have been a gain of 1. So, and I looked like 4 to me, but I mean, it's a really tough place to call a game. They've got a beautiful facility. They treat you right over there. Their SID Kelly is phenomenal. I met with some of their other broadcasters there too. Great people, but just did broadcasters really any favors by putting us on the goal line. But it is what it is. What can you do about it?
Tom, you've always been a big fan of calling a game from there, haven't you?
Well, half a game, and the other half not so much. But you're right, David. Kelly Loft and Ryan Rowlick, Swami, you can't ask for finer people in the NSIC. Now, I've been in Sioux Falls nearly all my life. I'm an old man. I've lived nearly 60 years here. Whit's a transplant from Chi-Town, the Windy City, Chicago. He's been living here in the upper Midwest for about 25 years. You're a transplant. Give us the thumbnail sketch, the background on David Tukesbrey, and where you hail from, how you ended up here in the upper Midwest, and why are you calling games? What got into your bloodstream?
Yeah, those are all very good questions. I think, well, first and foremost, I'm from Libertyville, Illinois, Green Oaks. It's a northern suburb of Chicago, probably like half an hour, 35-minute drive of Chicago. I went to college at Marquette University, was an assistant sports director, then became the sports director there at the student radio station. I did Marquette basketball when Jimmy Butler was there and Jake Crowder and Darius Johnson-Odom, and that was an absolute blast. But what I really loved was traveling with the women's soccer team, because everyone knows they had Fox and they had ESPN. Like, they had all the coverage for the basketball team, but the women's soccer team, they only had me. So I had to paint the picture to the best of my ability. And I got to know those girls and just had an absolute blast with the call. Helped that they went to the Sweet 16. They were a really good team too as well. So went to college there at Marquette. And then from there, I moved to Sisseton, South Dakota. And 2,700 people there in Sisseton, not a whole lot going on. It was just kind of the place that I found on the internet. I was looking for broadcasting jobs, and that was the place that was hiring. So that's where I went. I was a single guy at the time as well, so I didn't have any prior engagements or anything like that to kind of hold me to the area. So I said, let's go for it. So I started there. I was there for about 10 months. And then my boss, my current boss now, heard me on the radio over there and said, how'd you like to come to Aberdeen? And I said, that sounds great. So I did a lot of presentation college athletics. I did volleyball, football, and men's and women's basketball with them for the last 7 years, like you mentioned before it closed down. Just an incredible blessing, kind of a timing thing here to now work with Northern. But why I got into broadcasting, I love sports, man. I think sports is just such an incredible thing. It brings all of us together in a world where there is all of this consternation and, oh, you're a Democrat, you're a Republican, you're this, you're that, but we can all be brought together by sports and cheering for the same teams or maybe cheering against teams or something like that. So I think that's fantastic. And I got into it as not only I love sports, but I was I think I was a freshman in high school, and my grandfather actually had Lou Gehrig's disease. He had ALS. And I was doing play-by-play for like a local kind of student radio station or student TV station in high school. And my grandpa kept on asking me, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I said, gee, I don't know. And he goes, well, you do a pretty good job at that play-by-play thing. Maybe you should go ahead and take a look at that. And I was just kind of like, whatever. I didn't really make much of it. And the more and more sick that he got, he actually ended up moving in with us. And the more and more sick he got, the more he kind of drove that point home. And he said, hey, you really should explore this. And to this day, actually, now that I'm 32 years old, I have one of his old undershirts. And every once in a while, I'll put it on when I'm calling play-by-play for a game. And I've always noticed that I cover, I call the best games when I'm wearing his shirt, which is kind of a weird deal, but it's just something, there's maybe kind of a spiritual connection there. I'm not quite sure, but that's kind of how I got into broadcasting.
Tom and I have both made a trip up to the bank and watched a game up there. Shortly after the venue opened in 2022 or 2021, I should say. One of the top facilities in all Division II. Tell us a little bit about your perch at the stadium and how it is to call a game there at that yard.
Oh man, it's incredible. It's an incredible view. I mean, the crowd is so loud. They're so supportive there. Aberdeen really, really, really supports Northern State. And that's one thing that I really love about this new job here is people care. People care about what you said. People are critiquing what you said, which is can be a good thing, can be a bad thing. But the view is just incredible. You're right there at the 50-yard line. You're at the 5th floor top, little perch there. You've got nothing but space in front of you. You can also, plug in an XLR cord to get the crowd noise, the referee's mic, PA if you want it, and all that stuff. So I haven't been to every single spot in the NSIC yet, but I don't know, man. Dakota Bank Stadium is really, really tough to beat. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous facility.
Sure. With where the squad is at right now, let me ask you, we got 4 weeks left. Obviously, this hasn't been quite the year for Northern State. 3-4 record. The playoffs aren't really a possibility at this point. What do you think are the realistic goals for the Wolves for the rest of the way?
I think it's kind of twofold. I think it's just to continue to build off this momentum that they've generated over the last couple of weeks. And now, granted, Minot and SMSU, they're not Mankato, they're not Bemidji, they're not Duluth, they're not the best teams out there. But I think with the change they made with their defensive coordinator and what have you, they've just kind of had a mental reset, if that's the right word, things. And
Sure.
In the post-game show last week, Coach Schmidt was talking about just kind of being the calm in the storm when sometimes things get kind of way out of whack and the team can fracture a little bit. He was there on the sideline to kind of bring everybody together. And I think that's something that can endure going forward, is to be that voice in the sideline when things can get a little hairy from time to time. I think Coach Schmidt even said in the post-game show that he doesn't believe that that momentum can carry from week to week, but kind of a game-to-game thing. There may be some truth to that. I don't know. I think confidence does move from week to week, maybe not momentum, but I think it's basically continuing to try to keep Colton Hackle upright. He's been really, really solid when he's played. Brett Brenton has looked very, very solid. Their defense continues to grow. Their pass rush has been getting a little bit better. So like you said, the playoffs probably out of the question. But I think there's something to be said about just keeping this formula that they've kind of developed over the last couple of weeks, both defensively and offensively. I think Ryan Schlichty's had 2 of his best games calling it from the offensive coordinator perspective, with a really good mixture of run and pass. And if you want to go back there and throw the ball 60 some odd times a game. If you're Jack Strand, that's great, but I don't think that's Northern's MO. I don't think that's what they're built around. So I thought he's had a couple of really good weeks calling games. And I think if they want to continue this, keep this train on the tracks, you need to have more performances like that from his coordinator perspective. I think he's done a great job.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Stick around, David. We're not done with you yet. We're going to ask you to consult your crystal ball a little bit later on when we go over this Saturday's games. First, we need to complete our whip around of last Saturday's activity. So, Whit, do your magic there. There we go. First off, UMD blitzed Mary 46-0 in the Twin Ports. Bulldogs got 3 TD passes from Kyle Waljasper. They outgained the Marauders 504-98. Wow.
Yeah, this the 98 yards, it seems like UMD just really smashes the lower teams, and this in a kind of a no-doubter way. I did notice, Waljasper had kind of light work on this one, played about half the game, and Mary, we knew it was going to be a bit of a project, and it is, and give them time.
All right, next up.
If I may, guys, I just got to toss this out there. I mentioned this on my broadcast with Duluth. Trying to tackle Kyle Waljasper is like trying to tackle a Pepsi machine. I mean, the guy is huge. I remember he was standing during pregame warmups right next to his left guard, and I was like, that guy's thighs are bigger than his guard's thighs. and he's so fast too. Like quarterbacks that are that big and that athletic shouldn't be that fast. I mean, that guy's just an absolute behemoth. He is a really, really good football player.
Absolutely.
He was only 8 of 18 passing the ball Saturday, but he threw 3 touchdowns. And I'm telling you, he threaded the needle against Sioux Falls. He's got the touch if they'd only use it a little bit more. All right, my game, second on the list there, Moorhead 53, Sioux Falls 40. You heard that both Ryan Bieberdorf and Josiah Boehm earned Player of the Week honors for the Dragons. Jack Strand wasn't too shabby either. He was 20 of 30 for 428 yards and 6 touchdowns. Gage Florence, another 100-yard receiving day. He scored twice as well. For the Cougars, 3 turnovers, a blocked punt, turning it over on downs twice near midfield. It all resulted in great field position for the Dragons, whose longest scoring drive took 2 minutes and 29 seconds. Blink of an eye, it was over. The USF offensive record book was shattered on Saturday. Camden Dean broke marks for pass attempts, pass completions, passing yards, and total offensive yards in a game. He also threw 6 touchdowns, was picked off 3 times as well. Carter Slykehouse set a new record for catches in a game. He had 18 of them. Those are all well and good, but until the defense proves it can stop somebody, wins are going to be hard to come by for Sioux Falls.
Yeah, and the defense for Sioux Falls is the issue, in my opinion. Right now, they're 12th out of 13 in the league. The challenge is, they're so young. You can't just microwave, experience and the ability at this moment. I think USF will be a much different team a year from now. Might be saying that same thing about Northern State for that matter. But right now they are who they are. And Moorhead continues to be above expectations, and a win like this is a real good notch for them. They haven't beaten Sioux Falls, and, just another thing that they're doing this year.
What's more impressive, the fact that Strand threw it 30 times or the fact that USF had 105 plays ran? I mean, what's a more incredible number there? I don't know.
It's crazy.
That's a new school record, too, 105 snaps.
Yeah.
Bemidji State got out to an early lead at Wayne State and got a win on the road, 33-23. Brandon Alt, another ho-hum day, 300 yards, 3 touchdown passes. Dell Duncan Busby, 7 catches, more than 100 yards, 2 TDs. BSU kept Wayne quarterback Nick Bowen pretty much in check. He threw for more than 400 yards. 3 receivers had 100-yard days. But Bowen was just 24 of 60 with 2 interceptions. And he rushed 16 times, yet gained only 16 yards. I should say 10 yards. 16 carries, 10 yards.
Yeah, making Wayne single-dimensional is a pretty big deal here for Bemidji. The Wildcats had to settle for field goals often in this game, and that's just a hard way to keep up with Bemidji. The pick 6 from Caleb Young late in the game I thought was a dagger on a pretty poorly thrown ball by Bone. But In a game that was pretty much just kind of controlled by Bemidji right from the go.
All right. Who saw this one coming? Because I didn't. Minot State got its first win, beating Concordia St. Paul 17-10 in Minot. Whit, you've got some video from the celebration up in Minot. Coach Ian Shield getting his first win with the Beavers.
Yeah, let's get a little bit of celebration here, and it's going to have a little volume to it, so just heads up. You know what? That's pretty cool. I'm really happy to see that. And Coach Shields is a really nice guy. And we thought that this win might even come sooner, but we knew somebody was going to get him. And somebody finally did.
Yeah, Jalen Richardson, who ran wild against Sioux Falls, 160 yards on the ground. He had 32 the other day, and the Beavers limited CSP totally to 179 yards of offense. Miles West, 100-yard rushing day for the North Dakotans, who are now 1-6 this year.
Miles West is good, by the way. We just saw Minot State the week prior, and he didn't put up the numbers against Northern, but you could tell just extrapolating his kind of measurables and what have you and the way he ran the football. He ran really hard. So just keep your name out for Miles West going forward. I know Minot, again, not world beaters, but he played really, really well.
We got to go back up one spot on the chart there. We overlooked.
Oh, I'm sorry. We missed that game.
In Western Oregon. Yeah, that was a non-conference affair.
Okay.
Western Oregon was at the Blake. Mavs won 45-14, which wasn't much different than what WOU lost to South Dakota State by in week one. That was 45-7. That means if I do my transitive properties Mankato would give South Dakota State a heck of a run.
Is that how that works?
Yeah, I think so.
Now, I would love to see it, but that's not a game that the Jacks are probably scheduling anytime soon. No, kind of like Montana and Ferris State, you probably don't need that risk if you can help it. But MSU, I thought that they had I was a little surprised that Sheen Butler lost and still had kind of a subpar game. But the Mavs, did get the passing game clicking a little bit, which they're going to need, in my opinion, against some of the better teams in the conference. Heck, maybe even this week in the game of the week.
All right. Lastly, Augustana remained unbeaten, venturing into Winona, winning 48-28. The Vikings closed the door on the Warriors after the breakout, scoring them 17-0 the second half. Jared Epperson sparked the Augie offense. He had more than 140 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. Winona sacked Augustana's Casey Bauman 7 times, but was a -3 in the turnover department, and that hurts.
Yeah, and this is an interesting game to watch. I mean, Winona hurt Augie, early in special teams, kick return, touchdown, then a fake punt. But as the game kind of continued, Augie took over, despite the fact that Winona sacked Augie 7 times. I think Augie's got to be encouraged by Epperson having some good production in this one. And, once again, they're 7-0, and we're really going to see these last 4 weeks kind of where they land, playoffs or not. Right now, it's looking like playoffs.
All right, Boss's Pizza and Chicken is the NSIC Weekly exclusive sponsor, David. You snuck one in bias before. Censors didn't get you, but
sorry about that.
They got a new entity that is on fire. It's on the screen there. First and Tenders.
Yeah, look at this.
firstandtenders.com. These guys have the ability to, it's not a brick and mortar place. You order it online and they'll either deliver it to you or you stop by and pick it up. Available at 2 Sioux Falls locations of Boss's Pizza and Chicken or at the Brookings locale. These are the best chicken tenders you can find. They're coated with buttermilk, hand breaded when you order. So they do it at the moment you order. They are crispy and fresh when you pick them up or you get the delivery. You can choose from 15 different sauces, 20 different dry rubs. All the meals come with fries, and you can choose from multiple sides as well. They've got the zesty coleslaw, the hearty potato salad, beans, and even hot and mild wings if you'd like some bones with your chicken. Again, online ordering only at firstandtenders.com. That's FIRSTAND tenders.com.
Nicely done, my friend. And by the way, that does mean there's a ghost in the kitchen. So yeah.
I'm hungry.
Okay. So what do we have upcoming, my friend? We've got a few big contests. You ready to kind of roll it out for us?
Let's go. Week 8. The folks at Massey furnishing the projected margin of victory. First up is a non-conference affair from the GLIAC, Davenport of Michigan, 6-0 on the year at winless Mary. Boy, the Panthers are only favored. The visiting Panthers are favored by just 14 points. Not having done any research here whatsoever other than comparing records, I think that spread is too small. Davenport to win easily.
David, what are your thoughts, my friend?
Yeah, I did a very, very, very brief recap on what Davenport has done this season. And like you mentioned, Tom, they're undefeated. Mary's had a tough go about it. I know they're a young team. They're not where they want to be. But, yeah, this just seems like kind of a no-brainer. I'm going with Davenport there on the road.
Yeah, Davenport being unbeaten, even though they haven't played the big dogs in their conference yet, and they will right after this game. They could very well lose their next 3 after this, but I think they win this one. They're 33, points scored a game, only allowing 13. Their quarterback, Jason Whitaker, is transfer from Northwestern, the Wildcats in Big Ten. And they have a running back, Myron Harris, who averages 126 a game. So they've got some guys. I'm just kind of curious. I haven't seen them since last year, so I'll probably tune in a little bit, see what that looks like.
All right. How come I'm missing? Here we go. You've got it. Yeah, Winona at Sioux Falls next up. All right, here we go.
Okay.
The line is 3, according to Massey. Sioux Falls, the favorite. If the Cougars have aspirations of making it a 29th consecutive winning season, they have to win this one. Winona State has taken the last 2 from the Cougars, and along with Mankato, they're the only schools USF has a losing NSIC record against. I believe Sioux Falls gets back to 500 this week with a W. David?
Tukes, what you got here?
Yeah, it's kind of a pick'em game, honestly. Feels like this is going to be a really, really good football game on paper. Now, full disclosure, I haven't seen Sioux Falls live in person yet, but sounds like their defense might be on the side of a milk carton, maybe. Winona's maybe not so much. We mentioned, they did give up 48 points last week, but 7 sacks. I did see Winona in person on the road at their place, and they kind of impressed me. Their quarterback, Stenstrom, is kind of a Jekyll and Hyde guy. He's a transfer from USD. We've seen some good. We've seen some not so good. It's honestly a coin flip, but I'll go with the upset. I think I'll go with Winona State on the road.
I've really had a challenge with this one because I think Winona State's defense is the biggest story in this football game. I think that they can be really a problem. That said, I think Sioux Falls offense has shown that they can make do against just about anybody. And I really kind of think that Sioux Falls gets the win this week. But I think it's going to be a really tight game. USF by 3, I could see that, but not sure if I'm taking them by any more than that.
So wait a minute. So if I pick the game correct and you guys pick the other games or the other team wrong, does that mean I get all the chicken then? Is that how that works?
You get nothing.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Yeah.
You get only a pat on the back and an attaboy.
That's all. Appreciate it.
Concordia St. Paul 2-5 at Bemidji State. The Beavers 5-1. BSU favored at home by 32, it says here. And based on what Concordia just did last week at Minot, you have to think BSU is going to roll and cover and then some, don't you?
Tukes, what you got, bud?
Yeah, Bemidji big. Geez Louise. Brandon All is going to be making it rain all day. He might not even see the fourth quarter in this football game, to be honest with you. So 32 points. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I like Bemidji. Bemidji plays very well at home as well. I have them winning big here. Concordia, obviously, I thought that they were, pretty much competing with the middle a few weeks ago, and that loss at Bemidji or at Minot does hurt them, no question.
Next up, in my estimation, this is the NSIC's game of the year to date. Augustana hosting Minnesota State Mankato, both teams 7-0. The Vikings appear to be charmed this fall. Believe it or not, Whit, I'm going to go with them just to show our faithful fan base that I don't hate Augustana.
That's a lot to take in right there. Hey, Tukes, who do you have this one?
Again, take this with a grain of salt because I haven't seen both teams yet. But, I mean, I've just been looking at some of the stat lines from both of these teams, and particularly the quarterback position. Eckern might go for a big day. Same thing can be said with Augie's quarterback as well. I would expect some points. Field goal sounds about right. Field goal difference. Again, coin flip, but I'm taking Mankato.
Well, since I'm going to be going to this game, I'm sure I'm going to be getting asked at the tailgate quite a bit of who I got winning in the score. So I got a score. So I have a very well-fought game here where I think Augustana can hurt Mankato through the air. However, I do think that Mankato will get to the quarterback. Winona just got to the quarterback. And I just think that Mankato is going to be just a little bit too physical. And I like them winning 42-34, and that would mean that they're covered.
Yeah, the spread is 3. 42-34. Interesting. Same score that
it's a math thing. You bet. Yes.
Sioux Falls lost at UMD by. Oh, continuing on our look ahead to Week 8 here. MSU Moorhead at Southwest Minnesota State. 1 o'clock kickoff at Matkey Field in Marshall. Moorhead is favored by 2 scores, 14 points. I was super impressed by the Dragons last week, and I fully expect them to win by at least 14 on the road. David?
Yeah, Moorhead has really been a team that's impressed me. We saw them a couple weeks ago up there, and Steve Lockway has really done a great job kind of not necessarily turning that team around because they've always been formidable, but yeah, Jack Strand, I think he, he's like 30 throws. Feels like he had an off day. He only had 30 throws last week. So, I mean, probably put his arm on ice a little bit. But, yeah, I like Moorhead big in this contest. Although Southwest, they're going to need their crowd a little bit because they had it in the first, I'd say 20 minutes of that game against NSU. They need that crowd for sure, but I like Moorhead.
You know what, Tom? You might be shocked here. I was actually giving some thought to a Southwest upset, but the more I dug into this, they're a running football team, and Moorhead's gotten better and better against defending the run. I'm just not convinced that Southwest can beat him through the air, and I don't think that they're going to be able to slow down Moorhead enough. So I do have Moorhead winning. I don't know if they cover, but I think they'll be right around there.
All right. Let's go to Minnesota Duluth, traveling to Minot State. Can't for the life of me seeing the Beavers making it 2 wins in a row. Duluth is favored by 34, and I see UMD winning comfortably. No doubt about it. David?
Ditto. Yeah, I like Duluth big. I think there's a pretty good chance they cover. Same thing. I think Wall Jasper probably doesn't play the fourth quarter. Maybe they pull him out early, but yeah, Duluth in a big romp.
I mentioned it earlier. Duluth just hammers the lower teams. I'm going to say they do here. I got them covering the 34.
All right. Last but not least, David's game, 6 o'clock Saturday night at Dakota Bank Field in Aberdeen, Northern State at 3-4, hosting 5-2 Wayne State College of Nebraska. Based on season trajectories, it's difficult for me not to go with Wayne. So WSC is my pick. David?
No bias at all from me in this pick.
We didn't think there would be. Yeah.
Right. I haven't fully sunk in my teeth into the Wayne State defense yet. I just did my spotting charts today for their offense. But these two teams played each other last year. Northern held them to only 13 points in Wayne. I think Northern's defense is starting to kind of get back on track here now with Mike Schmidt at the controls. I mean, I think this is going to be a pretty close game. It's going to be blackout cancer night there. The Wolves are going to be rocking their black garb which for the life of me, I think is the coolest uniform that I've seen so far. Nick Bone is really, really good, but I mean, Northern could be 0-8 and Wayne could be 8-0. I'm still picking the Wolves. So I think it's going to be a really good football game, but there's been a lot of times over the last couple of years where the Wolves on Saturday night at the bank, they maybe win a game that people don't expect them to. I think this could be one of those.
I'm not sure there is a place where a team gets a better home field advantage than the night games that are played in Aberdeen. I really believe that. I think this is going to be a close football game. I think that Wayne is going to have to battle with the energy of the crowd. And I think Coach Schmidt's going to get this team up and ready. I just think that Wayne has too much, though, just a little bit too much talent. And I think Bone, it's really hard for me to not pick him in this game. I think that they escape, but I think it's going to be a real good football game.
All right, Captain, we've been making picks now for 7 weeks. What are the standings? How much you beaten my butt by?
Well, I'm the season minus 2 games. So I've gotten 2 losses. You have 7,
Oof.
which you got 2 wrong last week because you got Sioux Falls let you down, and then Minot had the upset. So we do have a 5-game delta there, and maybe you still have time to catch up, my friend.
All right, 4 games to go, but man, I'm going to have to go out on a limb here, I think, pretty quick. Any Jeopardy or mailbag questions for us this weekend? Because we can't live without anything like that. You know what I mean?
You know what? I'll just ask one Jeopardy question, and you know what? We'll see, Tom, if you can win a 1-question Jeopardy playoff. Okay?
Do we first one to answer correctly wins?
Tom goes first, then Tukes gets to guess after that.
All righty, here we go.
Tom, hands on buzzers. Okay. Tom, who is the receiving yards leader in the Northern Sun this year?
For yards?
Yes.
Well, David knows this one. It's DeWaylen Ingram.
Wow. We were expecting the sketch was that you were going to get it wrong. Tukes is going to get it right, and he was going to beat you at Jeopardy here. But apparently that's not how this went. So we'll ask one other question then.
You didn't think this through properly.
Apparently. Well, we're not used to you getting questions right. So who's got the best? What team has the best turnover margin in the Northern Sun?
Can I guess?
Yes, you're going to get an opportunity. Don't jump the gun here, for crying out loud. You're an interloper. You'll get a chance at it.
He gets a little feisty in Jeopardy, David.
Okay.
Got to be Duluth.
David, your guess.
I'm going to go with Wayne because Wayne's plus 10. That much I know. I haven't looked ahead.
We have a winner in the yellow there, Tom. You have once again found a way to lose in Northern Sun Jeopardy.
Hold it. Oh, I got one right. He got one right.
Yeah, no, he got 2 right because he was going to give the other one right too.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, Tom,
plus
once
10?
again,
I mean, that's insane. That's a really, really good number for those guys.
Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely
7
right.
weeks. What's Northern's plus minus at this point?
Well, you know what? Anticipating you guys would ask the question, Northern is minus 2.
-2, I believe.
Minus 1.
Sioux Falls is a -1. I knew that, but I didn't know what Northern was.
See, I was one step ahead of you, Tom. I knew you were going to ask the question.
Generally, you're not one step. You're usually 2 steps.
Don't sell me short. Don't sell me short.
Must be the hat, the genius cap on today. Any response to that? Falling on deaf ears. All right. NSIC Weekly is a production of D2Football.com. Join the D2 community every Sunday night at 7 for a deep dive into Division II football on X, formerly Twitter. It's also on YouTube and the Facebook. They'd love for you to stop on in. Like this podcast, it is available to watch at your leisure as well. You don't have to catch it live. You can search it out on the YouTube. Thank you to David Tukesbrey for joining us on the pod. David, how can our loyal fan base keep up to date with you?
Yeah, for sure. You can follow me right there on the X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, there at David Tukesbrey. You'll see a lot of Northern stuff there. I might gripe about some Seahawks tweets on Sundays from time to time there. But no, this was a blast, guys. I hope I can be back on at some point in time here this year. I don't know what your schedule is looking like for, but this was awesome. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was a blast.
Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
A tip of the cap is also in order. Go ahead, Whit. Tip that cap. Nick Cornder. That's not that wasn't a tip. That was a nod, for crying out loud. Nick,
Hey, while we're young, Frederick, let's go.
is the guy who makes the grand potentate here look good with all the eye candy he's got on the NSIC website that Whit transposes over here. So say so long, Matt Witwicky.
So long, Whit.
This is Tom Frederick bidding a fond adieu for NSIC Weekly. So long.